Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to another edition of DIY Money.
DIY money.
Hey, Howard. What's
up,
going
Quint?
on?
Still recovering.
Hey,
you know what's going on.
I do
I know
kn-
you're going to bring it up.
No,
so I'll
no,
just
no.
bring
I'm not
fine.
not gonna bring up the car at all.
No, that's
we'll get
not
updates as. Oh, that's not what you're talking about.
The biggie bag?
No,
not gonna bring it
I'm
up?
not throwing you under the bus with the biggie bag. You all can use your imagination with that. I mean, this is A. Howard, CPA,
Trying to get a
biggie
budget
bag
meal.
aficionado.
Hey, I was
apparently.
avoiding lifestyle creep, Quint.
We're going to talk about that today. A few housekeeping odds and ends. We still need questions. Send us those questions, podcast at DIYmoney.org. By the way, if you're the influencer out there who gave us a whatever and all of a sudden our downloads have flown off the shelf, is that even a thing? Whatever. Thank you. Whoever you were. I looked, I searched, I did all the things. I have no idea. But all of a sudden, massive spike in the downloads. So all you new listeners, we really appreciate it. It also was brought to our attention that the first 599 episodes on Spotify and iTunes magically disappeared. So hopefully we're getting that fixed. There are more
I did not
episodes
hear about that.
than the 200 or so that you see. But welcome all new listeners. A couple other housekeeping odds and ends. This podcast brought to you by Joule Financial, Joule Financial. If you have a unique scenario, situation, complex situation, and you want a second opinion, that is where we all work. So we are part of Joule Financial as fiduciary advisors. Hit us up on the web, joulefinancial.com. Again, that's joulefinancial.com. Also big news.
Okay.
Big news.
What is it? You never tell me these
Biggie
things
bag.
until we're cutting.
If you are...
Everyone listening gets a biggie bag.
No, we're not giving out biggie bags. If you are still on Facebook, we're bringing back the tribe.
Heyo.
The tribe is
I
back
can hear
in
the
action.
tribe music.
Cue the tribe music. That's right.
Survivor theme.
We have a closed group on Facebook. Again, if you're still on there, I know many people have moved on to all the other things out there, but it is still I think, one of the best places for groups. And we had somebody recently who was like, hey, where's the tribe? What about this tribe?
It's been silent.
It's been silent. So we have re-engaged the tribe. There's some activity in there. If you want to, reach out, connect, talk offline, not offline.
Since it's
that
been a
sounds
while,
weird.
tell the people what the tribe is.
Yeah, so DIY Tribe is a closed Facebook group, and it was my intention years ago to just sort of create a community. So, I mean, sometimes people have one-off questions. They're not going to send in a podcast question. And candidly, I might be sitting down and being like, hey, I'll answer that question. I'll hit that. I'll talk about that. And there were other people in there, you know who you are, who came out, and they were great. And what we want to do is we want to elevate some people. We want to really bring back the community. It's all about the community, eh, Howard?
It's a buzzword.
And then maybe somebody will be like, biggie bag? What is she talking
And
about?
I will not answer that question.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so what else? We got questions. Send us questions.
Send us questions. Podcast at DIY Money.
At DIYmoney.org. We talked about the sponsor. We talked about the biggie bag. We talked about the tribe.
Yeah.
Is there
And give
anything
us
else?
5-star review on iTunes or Spotify.
And we're all up on
That
YouTube
helps.
now. All
Lots
right.
to cover.
Enough about
Enough of
us.
that.
Enough about us. Here's what we're talking about today. We're going to go on a little bit of a rant again. And here's why we're doing this. The data that we're seeing is extremely concerning, and it's in our face every day. The latest report that I heard just yesterday, that we are now at levels of mortgage delinquencies with FHA loans that we haven't seen since the financial crisis. In fact, the actual report is FHA delinquencies 11.03%, or 6.1 million Americans are behind on their mortgage. And by the way, this isn't like, oh, they're 15 days late on their mortgage, let's boom. No, these are serious delinquencies. More than likely, I think that report is 90 days or more. So that is, if you're keeping score, auto delinquencies, credit card delinquencies, and now mortgage delinquencies. So listen, if you've been waiting to buy a house out there and you're like, oh, this is so frustrating, prices are too high and blah, 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 newsflash, prices are going to come down. It's going to happen. It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to happen. The economy is unfolding in a negative manner before our eyes. It doesn't have to run straight into a brick wall. There can be a lot of things that sort of, it's almost like, oh, we're going to crash, here it comes, and then we're good, right? So there's some things that can happen there. We don't need to talk about the economics behind it today, but what's getting in my craw a little bit, is it craw? Getting in my craw?
I have never heard anything close to that.
I think it's craw. It's not crawl. It's craw. I think it's craw.
Getting in my craw.
Getting in my craw a little bit is I don't want our listeners to fall subject to this. So we've been doing this podcast now for years. 700, 800 episodes or something like that. So we're going back and saying, okay, what are the reasons? Why does this happen to someone? Now listen, terrible situation. You could lose your job, right? You mean unfortunate circumstance, medical conditions.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that later in the series.
Variety of things could happen to derail a plan. But let's talk about the things that you can control. And the first one that we as a team decided to talk about today, lifestyle creep. What say you, A. Howard, about lifestyle creep?
It's scary, and I'll be the first to admit, I fall victim to this too, and you have to check yourself and make sure that you do not think you're above the lifestyle creep. What this essentially means is, over time, as you make more income, you feel like you should be spending more, and so you get nicer things, and then you get used to those nicer things, and now they're not nice things, and you want even nicer things. And so, for example, just this week, I took my car. We don't have to rehash that. Painful situation. But I remember having this moment that I was like, well, maybe I just need a newer car. Like, this car has too many miles on it. And I just got the car. And I was so excited about how it was so much newer than my 2010 I was driving before. It had so many less miles. And already, within less than a year, I'm falling victim to this exact thing. And so some of it has to do with contentment, just personally finding contentment in what you have and not being entitled for more. But some of it has to do with kind of the minutia of tracking expenses. Because what you'll find is if you're not diligent in tracking your expenses, then the lifestyle creep will happen when you go shopping. And now you're like, well, I make more income, so I'm going to spend more on clothes. When you go to the Mexican restaurant, and now you're getting a margarita where before you got water, or you're getting the fajitas that are always more expensive for some reason than anything else on the menu. And so it comes down to being mindful about it and being diligent to track those expenses, because that's when you're going to see this lifestyle creep come up, because you'll be shocked if you let go of the reins and think, I got a raise at work, it'll all shake out. You may end up doubling what you're spending eating out, and you don't realize it for 8 months. That's a problem.
I don't know the percentage, but I'm going to guess 90% of people out there do not track expenses.
Probably more than that.
Diligently do not track expenses. In the DIY Money book, I wrote about the idea of going in and asking for a raise in your business that you work for, and the boss saying something like, it's not in the budget. And so you would say to them naturally, well, when it's available in the budget, I would like to be considered for a raise. That would be a mature response. You wouldn't throw a tantrum and storm out the door. But what if your boss said, oh no, it's not that it's not, I mean, we just don't have a budget. Like when things come in, we just pay bills and we hope it works out. And we have a general idea of what we're making every month. So we kind of have a general idea that the bills are going to get paid. You would lose your mind. You would immediately go back to your desk. You'd probably message your spouse or your partner and your friends and be like, this place is crazy. They're going to go out of business. I don't even know what I'm doing. You would then brush up your resume. You jump on LinkedIn. You would not want to work there. Yet, at 5 o'clock or whatever time you leave work, 6:30 for you, you
some days
late, you go home, and then the idea of handling your finances in a budget, like business manner is out the window. It's totally out the window. And so, yes, I would say that number one is you have to adopt this mindset that you're operating like a business. Now, I know you might not run a business. You have no desire to run a business. It's not in your DNA. But unfortunately, everyone that gets compensation in some form or fashion is like a business. Like, you're providing a service. Your service might be you showing up for work. That's the service you're providing, and you're being paid to do so. If you want to expand your personal financial footprint at all, you have to be very prudent with how you treat your personal business. And one of the ways is tracking. And we beat that to death, and I don't want to go down that path anymore. We have plenty of episodes we did in the beginning of the year, and every year we do this. We go back to basics, and we talk about tracking expenses. We go into detail on how to track expenses. But I want to address one more thing that I think is very helpful, and this is what's helpful for me, has been helpful over the years. Because when thinking about this, I look back and I go, well, did I fall subject to that? And I don't think I did. I think when it was prudent, we got a bigger house, right? When it was in the budget, prudent, we had saved for it, et cetera. When it was prudent, I got a better car. But I never extended beyond where I was in the moment. And I thought back. I'm like, I'm not the most disciplined person. I mean, I'm pretty disciplined, but I mean, not always. I'm not a biggie bag guy, but I'm,
You're not saving that money to get on dinner. Bring it all around.
No, I'm not going to kill myself eating a biggie bag. Anyways, my point is, I look back and I said, well, why? Why did I not do that? Because as income grew, as business grew, it was goals.
Yeah.
It was goals. And I would say, for the 90% who don't track, I genuinely believe that 90, 95%, maybe even higher, don't really have financial goals. So if you started listening to this podcast and you make six figures, you got margin, you're not worried about, and you're like, okay, this isn't, fast forward. I'm not interested in this. Let me ask you, what are your current financial goals? Because I don't care the amount of money you make. I don't care how much margin you have. That's the difference between your income and your outgo. I don't care what's in your bank account. I don't care what's in your investment account. I don't care what is your next goal financially? And therefore, what are you putting that capital towards so that it just doesn't fly away due to you going, oh, I deserve this. I should have this. I should have that. And over the years, I've looked back and it's things like, well, as I've increased my margin, meaning I have more, between my expenses and my income, I can put more away for my kids and the custodial account. It was a big goal. We wanted to be completely debt-free. So for a very long time, like a decade or more, whenever margin increased, it went into account to pay down on the mortgage. And then ultimately when that was gone and that freed that up, it was like, well, now what? Well, now an investment account, because I don't turn the dividends on yet. We'll have other podcasts on that, dividend investing. But I do want eventually me to move from the taxable account that's just growing, is growth non-taxable, meaning I'm not paying a lot of tax on it, to a dividend type of account that's going to pay me income over time. And I knew what I wanted in dividend income. I knew what the balance needed to be, and I wanted to put that towards that. So the point is that by having these goals, when your income grows and you are even remotely susceptible to lifestyle creep, you go, I'm not going to do that because this excess margin's going over here. I want to share a story, and I love it. My son is going on a class trip to New York City. But at the same time, he and his marketing business partner have gone, they're going to the nationals for this competition, okay? There's an overlap. So the parents have gotten together, and there's been talk of, well, they'll go to New York, but then this small group of people will get on a plane in New York and fly down to Florida, they're jet setting, for this competition. My son's marketing business partner said to him, hey, man, I know your dad's pretty tight. Like, is that going to be okay? And I was like, yes!
You tell him.
I was like, yes! That's amazing. Now, my son, wasn't my son going, hey, this kid listens to or his dad listens to the podcast. I mean, he knows that I don't just frivolously spend money. And I love that. So I've gotten that sort of reputation even in these kind of circles. And that's perfect. I'm okay with that. Absolutely.
Well, and here's the thing, too. You got to learn how to avoid the landmines. Like, if you're following someone on Instagram that's an influencer and they're in Aruba every other weekend and flying to Australia for spring break or fill in the blank, like, at some point you just have to unfollow them. If that's going to tempt you to constantly be like, well, I want to be in Aruba. What am I doing here? Like, you've got to figure out
you're
how
getting
to
ahead of
turn off
yourself
temptations.
because that's probably a whole nother subject matter of keeping up with the Joneses
Yeah.
that we'll come back to.
Yeah.
Not today. All right. Anything else to add?
Don't think so. It's a good
Lifestyle
start.
creep. It is one of the most dangerous things that can happen, especially if you're on a path to success. No question about it. Remember, friends, the secret to wealth is pretty simple. Live on less than you make. Invest the rest. Do so for a very long time. Make it a great one.